Working on my wife's 2004 Isuzu Rodeo, has a 3.2, and today I was just hoping maybe I could share a couple pointers for those out there that may have some similar problems. We've been driving this, or I should say my wife's been driving it for half a dozen years now. We bought it used, got a pretty good deal on it. It was missing a little bit ever since we got it, and I just figured I'd just drive it into the ground. But we used to get frequent engine codes for lean bank 1 and lean bank 2, and typically you're going to find when you research it that it's going to point to the oxygen sensors. And so of course you change the oxygen sensors and you still get the lean codes. And if you're like me, you get random misfire codes, which are worthless because it could be 100,000 different things that causes it. But one of the real common things is the EGR valve. And another that's common on the Isuzu Rodeo is bad intake gaskets. And so since we've managed to get quite a few miles out of it, I figured it might be worth just doing the intake manifold gaskets. It did backfire in the intake manifold. Just started happening recently. And as you can see, it did in fact blow a piece of the intake gasket out. And it's been broken off for quite a while, and you can tell because right here where the crack is, there's a bunch of soot in it. So it's been cracked for a long time, but like I said, just recently backfired and just started really running bad. In fact, wouldn't stay running. So anyhow, this is not one of those Saturday afternoon jobs for the faint of heart. Pretty time consuming. You're almost always going to have to go get a part, even if you got the gasket set and stuff. But there is a couple of things you should do. Well, you can either do it or not, but one of the things I always do is take a little bit of extra time up front and mark all the hoses and wires before you start pulling everything apart. And the method I use is color coding. Take a look at the intake manifold here. It looks pretty cruddy, both halves of it. And then right here you'll see that I got a whole bunch of old model paints, and I know from these boxes that I've had these for 30 some years. And so what I do is I use a Q-tip and a bunch of Q-tips actually, and color code all the wire terminals and hoses and stuff before I tear everything apart. Just speeds things up putting them back together. Okay, but so you got the intake manifold gasket that's going to cause a lean condition, and then a couple other things. If you're going to tear into a Isuzu Rodeo, or at least take the intake manifold gasket apart, a couple things you want to address while you're in there. I mean, you probably don't want to do it, but you'd be a fool if you didn't. You can see online there's some forums where they talk about a mystery coolant leak coming from the Isuzu 3.2. And I've had it on all of my previous Isuzu. There's a coolant pipe right here that is one of the two that goes to the cab heater. This one in particular right here fits right down in here, and so once you get the throttle body on, the intake manifold is really hard to see, but it's got rubber O-ring on it, and as you can see from this one, it's work hardened. It's hard and brittle. Now on this truck we haven't had a problem with the profuse coolant leak. It was just one of those things where you could always smell it, so it was just weeping. So I'm going to go ahead and try and find a Vuitton O-ring to put in place of that before I put all this back together. And then the other thing you want to do while you're in here is change the thermostat. there's no way you can change this thermostat on this vehicle without pulling the intake manifold, so it's well worth it to just go ahead and get it out of the way. So anyhow, I'm not a videographer, not into the YouTube business, just thought I would post this because I have seen some questions out there. You know, great thing about the internet, there's a lot of information out there. The bad thing about it is there's a lot of misinformation out there. So anyhow, if you have comments, feel free to leave them. I won't check them because, to be honest with you, I don't really care. Bye.